Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday Wisdom Day. It is Trap Chat Live, and we are back with the final panel for mental health. Oh, I know I gotta say it slow. Mental Health Awareness Month. It has been a tremendous ride. I have enjoyed myself tremendously with these ladies. This week, we are talking about collectives and communities and our involvement in them, how they affect our mental health in a good or a bad way. And the way we have been starting every show is to do a health check. How you feeling? How you doing? And this week we're doing something with colors. Shout out to
Color,
our
color,
host,
color,
Kimya
color, color.
Dennis, for sending us the color chart so that we can express ourselves uh, colorfully. So
Color,
I'm going to start
color.
with Ice T sister, because you were just singing colors.
Oh, I was like, who is Ice T sister?
Oh, man.
Sweet Tea? Hmm.
Sarah K. Morgan.
Yes, I got to get the K in there. So I think my color is, well, you know what? Every time people ask me my color, I say periwinkle
Oh,
because it is a both joyful and kind of melancholy color at the same time, depending on how you accessorize it and where it's at.
mm.
And I feel like that's an excellent representation of me. So it's kind of like in between blue and purple, it's that periwinkle. So that's it. That's where I'm at. I'm a solid periwinkle.
All right. Kendra, how you feeling?
So, based off the psychology of color chart, today I think I'm an orange. Today
Oh,
is my husband's birthday.
happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday, Mr. Husband.
Thank you. So we have taken the day off to just hang out, and run errands and do all those things, and so it feels like a very friendly, cheerful
Yeah.
day.
Uh-oh, she got something up her sleeve. She got
Mm-hmm. Talking
I'm
about
talking about Sarah Kate,
run
talking about hanging.
errands.
getting the Mary show.
Hanging out. I bet you is. Let's get on with it.
Oh. Uh, Kia, before I turn it over to you, how you feeling color wise?
Y'all goofy. Happy birthday, Frank. Um, so I'm a combination of my favorite colors, which are orange and red.
Okay.
So for me, orange is the freedom and the red is the action.
Mm.
And of
Mm,
course, with my buttons, the black women, stand with black women, stop saying strong black women, and also the red, black, and green, which is the foundation of Marcus Garvey, black nationalism, black actions, and I also normally also wear my Pan African pin, but I'm not wearing that today. But this idea of actions that connect to concepts, theories, and connections for our people. So that's how I feel mentally, emotionally, and always prepared to do what I got to do.
So obviously, I'm feeling purple today, and not
Hey,
just because
Papa.
it's my favorite color, but because I in like this weird place. Sarah and I talked about it this morning. I was like, I thought we were supposed to be a little more balanced right now. But yeah, there's some highs and lows in there. So there's some sadness mixed in with the imagination, um, the creativity. But on the bright side, I'm sure by the end of this call, I will be on all the high sides of purple. So I'm going to turn it over to Kimya and let's get started.
Each day through my window, I
I
watch
wish we
passes
could go.
I say to, since you said imagination, I have to do my favorite Temptation song. All right.
we're not going to talk about the fact that that song is a little problematic
A
lyrically.
little, which mean a
Okay,
little. It's very problematic.
it's quite problematic. I just, you said it was your favorite, so I was going to tiptoe through that
Well,
window.
see,
But
that's like a
he a
whole new,
fool. He a stalker.
you think of the Foursome D's, the Foursome D's song when they outside her window.
Yeah,
They weird. They was
like
stalking
yeah,
her too.
stalking.
That's why they turned around. She'd gone to bed.
I
Um,
bet she
Foursome
did. She should have called the police.
Tender love. She said, "All right, good night." A whole bunch of these good songs, old school songs. You'd be like, "Yo, son,
Yeah, the words be like
like,
the lyrics be like,
geez, girl, you
ooh,
missed it, dog."
I
Um,
mean, our 2000 songs ain't much better. We spent a whole summer singing Nelly and Kelly. You don't know what you mean to. No matter what I
I
do,
do. All I think about is
all I think
you.
about you,
I, I,
even
Every
when I'm with my boo. Come on now.
right,
I ain't sing that
right.
song, so I'm proud to say I ain't sing
You
that.
lying? I was there.
You're lying on your feet stank.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot. What they say, a lot don't care who tell it.
so,
Okay.
so actually, it's really good that we're starting off with this because this is an example of Black cultures where, yes. So, as a sociologist and criminologist, we talk about various components of culture, and Dr. Kendra is like, okay, Kimya about to get started. So, yeah. So, yeah. We talk about various components of our cultures that express who we are as a people. And also, we talk about artistic. So, when Dr. Jason and I published the Black Women Academicians Research in 2018, we used art and activism and expression, Dr. Elaine Locke, Dr. Du Bois, and I'm working on some writings about Harold Cruz because that's one critique that Harold Cruz had about Black folks in Harlem was not using actions based on arts. So I just want to start off with that because I put music in everything. Like last session, y'all was clowning. Smith and Wesson, and it took everything in me not to start violence. I was at least about to do some Camp Low respect, like, can we do something? But I do put music in everything. When I'm teaching, when I'm reaching, when I do sessions in communities, I do community health tables. So people come to my table and I say, let's do some lyrics, let's sing, let's find a way to connect. Sure. So a lot of people like that.
I like that.
If they don't, I'm still doing my favorite songs. Okay. So here's something I want us to discuss. And there's some different items. So what are some events and collectives with which you're collaborating at the moment? So collaborations can be, we're all busy. So it could be a financial donation. It could be having physical presence. They're like, okay, I'll be there for a little bit. It could be board of directors, research collaborations, writing, and everything. I know the answer to this for all three of you, but I want you to share with everybody else. So again, I'll just repeat some events and
she said, I'll just repeat because y'all not talking fast enough. So I'll go. So donations for me right now, the Christopher D. Fields Memorial Scholarship Fund is one that I give to monthly. So Chris Fields was a dear friend of mine who passed away unexpectedly in 2020. Dear friend of Kirsten's as well. And Code Crew, which is a Memphis, Tennessee based Black founded, Black run nonprofit that works with students in the greater Memphis area in learning about coding and careers in technology. Shortly after Chris's death, established a scholarship fund in his name. He was their social media manager and a longtime friend of the founder, and so wanted to always to support that. Locally, working with our Black Farmers Market and collective here in the Raleigh area, talking about making sure that our children and our elders in particularly have access to affordable, healthy food, and also wanting to support Black businesses that are providing that food to our communities and teaching about growing your own food is important to me. I'm a member of the board of advisors for the UKG Workforce Institute, where we do research on essential and frontline workers and related topics in order to make the workplace better for them. I work on the team of influencers for Work Human, so supporting their events, attending their events, participating in their events where they're talking about making workplaces more human for people. And lastly, I'm a member of the board of directors at the Marbles Kids Museum here in the Raleigh area, and serve on two committees. One, the Learning Committee, where we are focused on really making sure that our exhibits are meeting the needs of our community. And then the second ad hoc committee that we recently formed on the expansion of marbles and making sure that our approach to that is equitable. So those are the things. And then I also I'm kind of a lover of GoFundMe. So I will um occasionally peruse GoFundMe for things that speak to me and do a little research on it to make sure that it's legitimate. And if I'm able to find legitimacy to it, I will throw it a few dollars as I'm able. So those things are it for me. I'm gonna mute myself because my dog about to bark because his humans are coming home.
Thank you, dude guy. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. So, a lot of nonprofit engagement, as Sarah mentioned. And for me, I kind of gravitate when it comes to doing work for things and supporting things with my presence, not just my dollars, but with my time and my expertise to all things that are career focused. So, you guys will see me sharing things from different organizations, different small and even some national or global orgs that are helping folks either return to the workforce, whether they be have left for medical reasons, for family reasons, or just took a break. People that are just starting out, people that are returning from having been incarcerated, uh, anything like that. Like I I love to support that. I support a lot of things financially, so much so that I forget a lot of times. And a lot of that now, like I don't have as much going in person, just because, as y'all know, once COVID hit, like I didn't really go outside anymore, and I still haven't fully like reacclimated myself to being sociable around a lot of people. But you'll be surprised. I went back to church, and I've been twice now. I went twice in May. I'll go again this week because I believe it's Communion Sunday. So I have started going back to church, and that is also a community and a collective for me. In terms of me being around like-minded or people who are, focused on the same type of mission as I am. Um, as I was thinking about this, I did notice that I don't do a lot of things for meaning I don't do a lot of things for myself. Like I don't do a lot of things
Mm.
to build myself up or to enrich me. Like it's always about me doing work for others. So I was just thinking back of when I was a member of Girlfriends in the Burbs. Like it was like a fun time. Like we would do events, and there was still some work to be done too, because I would co-host things with them again that were career focused. But we went to movies, we read books, we went to restaurants. We did a lot of stuff. We helped each other, supported one another in whatever journeys we were in. So yeah, I feel like I need to reconnect with a group outside Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Sorry, listen, they must about to come down on me. Outside of that, where I'm doing something for me and not necessarily just getting some
Mm.
receiving. getting some receiving back as well, outside of just the feeling of having done good. Miss Kendra.
So, yeah, I don't know if we said the prayers over my internet connection today, but the one that I think of is it started as a research collaboration. Actually, no, let me stop. It started as a community. And so basically when COVID-19 happened, me and about four other Black women academics who are also mothers collaborated and used each other for support systems. We developed school curriculum for our kids together. We had play dates for our kids together. We talked together. And then out of that, we were like, we should write about this experience. And so we wrote a chapter in a book called something in the Rona. Sorry to the editor. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But we wrote a chapter called Black Mother Schooling, which is essentially community-based. It goes, the origins of Black women in the community, pulling our resources together, making a way out of our way. I'm not going to say out of no way, right? And then from then we thought about if we're middle class and we're having these challenges, what is it like for Black women who are more insecure, more economically vulnerable than us? And so we got some research money, and we did a longitudinal study with women in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is actually a study came out a few years ago that Charlotte is 50 of 50 when it comes to social mobility. So long story short, we started a research project. It was qualitative, but what was really important to us, and this is Kimya getting to your question, is that we're not doing research on these women. We're doing research with the women. And so our whole initiative is that, they're not our study subjects in the way we traditionally think about it. They're telling us their stories, and we're being very careful and responsible with their stories and just being a conduit for that information. And out of that, we have put on one small and one much larger community programming. One had over 100 people come, and the whole thing was like, we're bringing you to this space as a community to center the voices of these Black mothers, to tell you so they can tell you how they navigate the system and how they can tell you where the gaps are, and they can tell you, so you're not talking to them, you're not talking above them, and you're not talking through them. And so we've actually had a few research opportunities come out of that, collaborations as in publications. But what's really important to me as I train my graduate students who are using this data is to be so careful and responsible with these women's experiences and stories. And just out of that, it's just mushroom into other things. So I got invited to be on a board of directors for a community-based organization for home insecure families in Charlotte. I haven't decided if I'm going to join it for several reasons, but it just opened up so many opportunities. But what's at the core is that how we are, I don't want to just say being inclusive, but centering the Black mothers and not treating them as just the research subjects.
Strange. Thank you for everything all three of you do. And so just quickly about myself. So the work I do, local, national. Before COVID, I used to travel and do more health stuff nationally, and virtually it's globally. But so I do health resource tables in communities. So what I do is I connect health with education, economics. So I also do sessions to teach specifically Black people on curriculum development and course material selection and how to evaluate libraries. And so we're planning some community events because I always explain this everywhere I go. So one of my pet peeves, I have many pet peeves, but one of them is outrage over news stories, outrage over hashtag stuff, and caring about banned books and things like that. I don't like people whose knowledge and reading is based on what schools tell them to read. And I also don't like people whose reading list is based on New York Times bestsellers. So I always tell people that Black people are some of the origins of why you see things like libraries on street corners. Like a lot of people think that non-Black people are the ones who said, hey, let's put a little stand so that people can pick up books. Do they really think that a group of people who were banned from going to schools, banned from using community libraries, did not think to provide our own libraries and book resources? So that's part of the work that I'm doing with the health resource tables, education resource tables, and economic development includes financial planning information, and also explaining to our people what it means to utilize what's being paid through your taxpayer dollars. Because unfortunately, so many of our people convey, oh, we don't need no handouts. Hello, you're literally paying for this. And that's part of the city planning. When we talk about city planning, city design, high sales taxes are in particular parts of cities. And then we talk about overall tax paying. Are you utilizing what you're paying? Like what do people think their taxes are paying beyond salary? And so that's a lot of the work that I do. When I was in North Carolina, I was on a lot of board of directors and committees. And that's honestly, for Black folks, that's a lot of free labor. And that's very important to highlight, because I always tell Black folks, when you're on board of directors and committees, you need to look at the audit. Where's the grant funding, research funding? Are the resources that you're on the board of directors signing off on, are they used for our people? Mm. And the reason I decided not to be on board of directors now is because so many of the, first of all, nonprofits are very much like corporations. They're just like businesses. The powerful, wealthy nonprofits are the same problem that people claim to be fixing. And they're not helping the people they claim to be helping. And when we ask for evidence, they don't provide that. Mm-hmm. So I really just want Black people to understand that there are a lot of local community groups in most cities and every state, and also around the world. There are a lot of community groups. There are a lot of Black folks who are doing stuff in neighborhoods that you've never heard of. We're spending money out of our own pockets.
Yeah.
We're not doing RFPs for grants. We spend money out of our own pockets, oftentimes for various reasons. We don't want to compete with each other for funds. We don't want to wait for the funds to be processed. We don't want to wait for decision making. We don't want funds from the cops. We don't want funds from the government, even if we need funds because it's paying for our taxes. So it's so many things. Yes, Dr. Jason.
Yeah, so what you mentioned brings up where I was saying, like, I haven't decided to be on that board of directors yet. And I think it's relevant to this conversation because, okay, so one thing we know about a lot of board of directors and nonprofits is that they're often, of course, made up of retired for-profit and corporate executives, right? A lot of white people and other folks who have this type of background, but they don't have an equity background, right? And so because I've done this work with Work for Change, where I've, worked with nonprofits and board of directors, it's so much work in order to steer them, give them recommendations, help them see the big picture, that I'm like, right now, I'm like, I can't see myself doing that work unless I get paid for it, which I know board of directors are often volunteer. Now, I know it's a double-edged sword in the fact that you do need people with our type of knowledge base to do the work, otherwise it kind of, there's no potential for interruption of these thought processes. But the workload is so heavy on me because I have this insight and I have this knowledge base and I have these strategies that I could, provide or even help them wrestle with, that I'm not sure if, my labor, if it's worth like me and my labor at this point in my life. And so I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like, it is a big part of, having that insight and being on those boards, because you do want to direct and help them go in a particular direction, which is healthier for their client base. But at the same time, then all that work, or a majority of that work, comes on you, along with the microaggressions that come with going against the grain.
Thank you for saying that, Dr. Jason, because they will take free labor from us and they don't put resources oftentimes for our people. And this is a problem of data collection. So a lot of times when they collect the data, and we know this because we're trained both quantitative and qualitative. So we're actually trained to ask questions. You can't have me in no board meeting and say numbers indicate. Well, I'm gonna say what demographics are in these numbers. And if you want me to think that this mental health organization is reaching Black folks, tell me what you're doing. Because if you just did one presentation at a Black church, that means absolutely zero to me, right? And you feel some type of way that I'm asking more. So that's something that's happened to me on mental health board of directors and mental health trainings. Like when I've done trainings and board of directors for the most funded mental health organizations. I always tell people when these nonprofits, mental health, suicide prevention organizations are the most funded, it's because they're claiming to reach us, but they're not really reaching us. You're not going to get a whole lot of money reaching Black folks. I just need Black folks to understand that. Like putting us on the website, yes, they're going to be like, yay. But if that's a central focus of your programs, that's not how these organizations get funded. So that gets me to the next question, because I always explain to people, this is how I decide the difference between doing a training for a group versus actually doing more permanent collaborations with the group. How do y'all determine that? Like, how do y'all choose who you're going to collaborate with, be on the board of directors, whatever y'all do?
I think, can I add value, and do I have the time? Those are the top two for me. Can I add value? Do I have the time? Because if I can add value, sometimes I will make some time. If I have a bunch of time, but it's just a bunch of just to say I did something, that's not really worth it. And, it causes me a great deal of anxiety, and we're supposed to be not dealing with that going forward, or at least recognizing it and trying to put up better boundaries to not lean into those things.
For me, it's, the first thing I ask myself is like, is this an area of focus that's important to me? Because not everything is important, but everything is not important to me. And so for some things, it might just be a situation where, like, I can cut you a check, but I don't have more to give than that, at this time for this particular thing, because it's not something that is, that I feel passionate about. And then I ask myself, Kimya, to your point, like, what impact is this organization having on the communities that I care about? And if it is having impact already, and I can bring more expertise to help them have greater impact, then that's great. If it's not having an impact at all, then I have to start to question, like, what am I here? What are you bringing me in here for? Because that's a heavy lift. If you've never touched this community before, and now my involvement is supposed to be somehow that introduction, like, I don't know. And then I also think about what's the opportunity in it for me. And when I say opportunity, it's is this going to give me access to people, to resources, to exposure in other ways that is going to be helpful to me in other areas? Is this going to give me a level of like learning in a particular area that I don't have as much knowledge in, so that I can soak into some of that? So those are the things that I think about. And if the answer to most of those questions is yes, then I'll, and I have time, to Kirsten's point, and I have time, then my answer will be yes, and I'll go ahead and move forward. One thing I will add, because of, so with me, talking about mental health awareness, I have generalized anxiety disorder. One of the things, particularly because of the pandemic, that I am now grappling with more is agoraphobia, which is like being out in places, large crowds, things like that. I don't function well, and it will lead me into an anxiety episode. So I have to be very careful in terms of how I engage that, making sure that if I'm going to be in that type of environment, that I have the opportunity to step away and take breaks, and that the environment is controlled in a way that makes me feel safe, so that it does not trigger anxiety responses in me. So I have to be more intentional, and I end up declining things more often when they are in person and do require my physical presence, if I don't feel like I'm going to have good opportunity to break away, if I need to, crowd control measures, temperature control measures, those sorts of things. Like, I physically can't do those things anymore. And so I recognize that about myself. It's not a good environment for me in my mental health and where I am right now. So I have to cut that off, which at times bothers me, because I want to be, I want to be involved and be out there. And I can remember a lot of times during the height of the pandemic, as protests and marches and things like that were happening, even in my own city. And I was frustrated that where my mental health is wouldn't allow me to show up in the ways that I desired to. But I found other ways, to participate. There were organizations that would, like, pack lunches for people and bail funds, because a lot of times people go to events like that, they end up getting arrested, and so somebody got to get them out. Bail funds, also helping with the organizational parts of it, in terms of making sure that, they have the proper permits and things like that. Like, I have knowledge of how to do those things, so I can assist with that, but I may not necessarily be able to be there. So, what are the ways that I can augment my support that still allows me to remain mentally healthy, but still participate somehow in those types of events?
For me, I can't think of the best word for it, but me and the people who I collaborate with have to be of a shared understanding, a shared approach.
Mm.
I'm I don't have the patience or tolerance to teach people my approach, or to, get people to where we want to be, if that's what, if that's what they seek, right? I teach in the classroom. I don't teach on airplanes, right? And so, yeah. So, it's just, I do want, I want to grow with people. So, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me. And I'm not saying for like I'm the person who has to lead by far, but I don't want to join collaborations and events where, you have to learn from me primarily in order to get your goals done. Right.
Mm.
I want us to come together with a shared understanding of your goals, and we collaborate together with a similar approach, and then we sharpen each other to get there.
Mm.
And so that's one of the main things that, one of my main, and I think it goes back to what Kirsten is saying about time and energy as well, right? And so, and then your agency, like, your actual presence and agency, and, if you're being useful, and if it's the best use of time for everyone. So that's really important to me. Kimya, why are you smiling?
It was the teaching on airplanes. The teaching on
Oh.
airplanes caught us off guard. But but it's true, and particularly, when you are involved in equity work, and also being like a diversity, equity, inclusion, and so, consultant for organizations.
Yeah.
when you are traveling and people are just making general conversation, and it's normalized. I won't say it's normal. It's normalized to ask people, what do you do? And then you tell them that, and they want to dive into the, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what do you think? Um, yeah. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've gotten to, depending on how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
sometimes I will just say, I'm a consultant. And then that's the end of the conversation. I'm done. But
Same.
because I don't want to, I don't want to get into all of that. Like, I'm not in the mood. Get somebody
Hmm.
else to do it. So,
Same. Yeah.
um,
I tell people
yeah.
I might tell them I'm a, just depending, like I don't tell people I'm a sociologist. And I'm talking about planes, like literally, because there's people who want
Mhm,
to, I'm a sociologist, because then they want to know what you teach. And I'm going to say
mhm,
working inequality or race and such and such. And I'm not like, I'm not in the mood to have that conversation like with you. I did get one of my clients on the plane, but it was after a long conversation. Right. And so,
mhm.
but yeah, I just don't volunteer, if you will, my skill set, because I mean, a lot of times people want to have those conversations with you just for fodder, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
ain't
They
in the
just,
mood
yeah,
to
they
just be
just,
playing.
yeah. They just want to have. It's just something to talk about
Yeah,
until this plane lands, or until we board, or until
yeah,
whatever. No, we can talk. There's a whole host of other things that we can talk about, and so I have been known to. I ain't even playing no music, but I sure will stick an earbud, AirPod in my ear, and just as the signal of like, and no small talk is not welcome here. I ain't listening to nothing because I love a good ear hustle.
yeah,
When I'm out and when I'm out and about, I want to be able to hear what other people is talking about, and then text y'all and be like, "Girl, let's see what I heard. Look at these fools over here." Like, that's what I want to be able to do. And if I'm engaged in some kind of small talk with another individual, I can't necessarily do that. Or I want to talk with the people that I'm actually traveling with. But since
right.
a lot of times I'm by myself, and put them ear pods right on in, and yeah, I'm in my own zone. I'm not trying to educate you today.
Hmm.
I'm not.
And I'm not trying to get y'all a job.
No, you're still a
Like,
recruiter.
Yeah,
You can do
yeah,
that's why I created those shirts. You're a recruiter, can you get me a job? As
no,
the late great Nippy would say, sometimes.
no,
Like, please,
no.
please.
But
sometimes.
that's something important for Black people to understand, because so for today, so I had a long day already, and I was helping some poor and working class people to get some financial assistance, which, that's one of my work that I do that I'm really invested in. And these were non-Black people. And it's an interesting assumption that's very predictable for centuries. They assume that I, as a Black person, I must be a Democrat. I must support a certain politician. And then when you talk about, like, if you're like a form of radicalism, which I am in terms of revolution, they assume you're Marxist, communist, that kind of thing. So they start just throwing out all types of jargon. And what they wanted me to do is like do anti-Trump jargon, pro-Biden jargon,
I'm
all
done.
that stuff like that. So I was so proud of myself because I didn't engage in that. I didn't even talk sociologically. I'm opposed to Black folks being Marxist anyway, but I didn't even go on that rant. I didn't say,
Don't do
here's
it.
what
Mm-mm.
I recommend to read. I'm more so quoted Daz effects and said wiggity wow, and just finished what I was there to do.
Yay! Good for you.
I was so proud of myself because it takes a lot from me, because I really want Black folks to stop explaining. When I explain to Black folks. I explain to
Stat,
Black folks.
stat.
Yeah, you
Stat.
know,
Look, that stop explain like, are you explaining stat?
Stop explaining how you don't explain
You
that.
don't.
because a lot of Black folks would respond by saying, "Well, not all of us are," or
Mm-mm.
some.
Mm-mm.
You know what? When you do that, it's really used as a distraction, because Yeah, I mean, it's just like the whole anti-woke rhetoric because Sarah has the 365 diversity woke shirts.
Yeah.
You all can find at Spring, but used to be called Teespring.
Yes.
But that's most people, and this is not just USA, it's around the world. They're only familiar with a lot of stuff because of since 2016 nonsense. So they're not familiar with what's existed for centuries regarding race and factual information they can actually read. And so many Black folks waste time explaining. So today I just had to do some hip hop quotes in my mind and just do what I was there to do and just remind myself they literally will not care about what you say. They might even be offended that I'm a Black person who has the nerve to respond and explain something in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So can I
explain in a very educated ways? Yes, Dr. Kendra.
Audacity of you.
I wanted to ask y'all something, but it's a little off topic, but I think it's related. Do y'all have the experience where you're like in a retail store typically, and a white person may ask you a question and you may answer really quickly? They're like, "Oh, the milk is over there," or something. And then they start to assume you like their personal assistant. Like they continuously come back to you. And I remember noticing this happen because this woman literally almost started following me around the store asking me questions. Right. And I mean, I cut it out, but then it made me think about how often does this happen in my life where especially a white person or an older person may just assume I'm there to service them, even though that's not, like, I'm just a regular customer too. So it just, when you said people assume what you do and you don't have to entertain that and you don't have to explain it, it just reminded me of like that everyday experience. And I was like, I wonder if other, especially Black people, have this experience.
I don't help people. That's why I don't help people. I know that sounds terrible, but that's why I don't help people. My responses, and even if I know the answer, my responses, I don't know because I don't work here. So I need to let me go ahead on and set this boundary right now. Because once I answer it now, it's like the aura of helpfulness has come upon me, and the next thing you know, it's like that woman, she following you around. I don't work here. I don't know. And on top of me being anxious and agoraphobic, I'm also introverted. So are you kidding me? Like, you are a stranger talking to me right now. Like, I don't work here. And listen, sometimes when I used to work there, I didn't work there. Like, I'm not. Customer service is not my ministry. Like, no.
I think it also depends on the tone and the words people use. Because there are times where we're in a store, I don't know where I'm at, and other people don't either. And so sometimes the disclaimer is, I know you don't work here, but do you know where the crab legs at? So we all looking for the same crab legs. So we gonna walk.
No, I'm more inclined to answer that question in the grocery store, especially when I'm holding a basket or I'm pushing a, as y'all call it down south, a buggy.
Buggy.
I'm more inclined. It's a shopping cart.
I've never heard buggy, so go ahead and take that.
So I'm more inclined when someone says, "Hey, do you know where the such and such is?" Like, they know I don't work there, but I was thinking about that because I had a situation very recently and I snapped. Like, Brandy and I were in, I think we were in Banana Republic, and you know how I feel about Banana Republic, and it was a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Beautiful.
And I was shopping, and this lady kept asking, and I was like, I said it the first time, I was like, I don't work here. Like asking me about how much stuff costs and where can they blah, blah, blah. Can I get this online? I was like, I blacked out. And I like, don't stop asking me that. Like, I literally have on, like, I have on a jacket. Like, I'm carrying a pocketbook. Like, I'm holding things. I am shopping.
I don't have any, like, I don't do
none of that.
We used to shop at the Banana Republic. Was it Cloverleaf or Chesterfield Mall?
I think it was Chesterfield.
Because CJ used to, remember when CJ used to work there? We used to go down there.
Yeah. Dr. Kendra, like, don't y'all start talking about stuff.
Sorry. All right, listen. You're right.
You see,
I just want to say that, Dr. Kendra, you drove us there.
You took us back to something almost 30
years. But you just reminded me. it just it's like I was telling Kimya's questions actually just remind me of those experiences because I know it's not the same, right? I know Kimya, you're very distinctively talking about collectives, collaborations, and
Yeah.
events, and I'm just thinking about how people have expectations of us for more
Yes.
in those settings and how
Yeah.
it bleeds
And
into
it's
other
everywhere
things.
you
And that's why
go.
you
Yeah.
snap because it
Because
happened at work and then it happened
snap,
at
I
the
mean,
nonprofit and then it happened
yeah.
somewhere else.
Yep, it happened. So like I remember when I still was in North Carolina and I was at a insert organization that I won't call out meeting and outsider man, outsider means the demographic that you all can guess, came up to me and was like, "Can you explain issues of racial injustice and power disparities to me?" I says,
I'm
"Well,
just
I'm
here
gonna
for
send you."
milk. What are you
No,
doing?
I mean, I've been teaching sociology of race for 20 years. So what I did is I sent a whole bunch of stuff that I've been having my students read since we taught at NC State, Dr. Kendra, you know. I know he didn't open those files, but to me, that's effortless sharing
Mhm.
that kind of information to someone who ain't gonna read. What takes effort is if I'm gonna explain it for free. I mean, in North Carolina, I had a outsider woman sit beside me at a Juneteenth event. Now, mind you, the fact that she was invited to a Black folks event was very generous of our people. But she sat beside me, and I saw that she was very attentive. And then she said, "Can I just have you as my consultant? Like, can I just attend events with you?" And I said,
Oh,
"No, no, no. No, you can't. That's not what you're gonna do. What you're not gonna do." And even here in Baltimore, you know, when I walk around with shirts with messages about, you know, researching police and not relying on police, I've had outsiders respond to my shirt at the grocery store, like I asked them to respond to an interview or something like that. And so as Black folks, we have to be, I mean, we have 5 centuries regarding race of having to ignore a lot of stuff because whether it's in person or online, because, you know, with the internet and other technology, it's the same wording, the same antics, but the different devices used.
yeah.
So what they do is they'll try to get our attention so we can say something, and everyone in the world cares, including our own people, is that we had the nerve to respond.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
will always be told, including by our own people, that we should have ignored it or we should have responded politely if we responded.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think that I'm glad you said that, you know, in terms of the online stuff. And I have this conversation a lot about social media. I know we way off topic of communities and whatever, but I have like the phenomenon. I won't say it doesn't happen, but it's far more rare in physical life versus virtual life for you to walk overhear a stranger talking to on like talking, you know, somebody's talking on the phone, they're in conversation with another person, and you insert yourself and call them all kinds of, you know, names and ignorance and whatever else, or challenge what it is. Like again, it'd be like two people arguing in the airport. I just, like I said, I text y'all and be like, "What these people over there?" But what I'm not going to do is go over and be like, "Well, actually,
Yeah.
what you're wrong and ignorant for your perspective," because like I just, and so when I take that real life, that physical life scenario, that is what happens online every day, and it continues to just like mystify me that you would just jump in and talk to a stranger in that manner and then not expect to catch that clap back. Like I don't understand how the, and to Kenya's point, I don't understand how then I'm the one that somehow, you know, in the wrong and more offensive than the person who said this, you know, stupid, ignorant thing to me in the first place. And that is something that we as a people have experienced, like, oh, just ignore it. Well, You can
Black,
only ignore ignorance, so much and so often. We all have that moment. And
people, black people around the world, because blackness is all around the world, we're the only people, and I literally mean only people, who are expected and told 24/7, 365, hence 365 diversity. I always tell people diversity in my name does not mean the European dictionary definition. We're the only people around the world told to ignore stuff.
mhm,
Every other people around the world, and that includes Black, LGBTQIA people, Black people with disability, poor Black people. We're the only people around the world to ignore abuses, to ignore everything.
and the impact that ignoring, because not responding to that type of abuse doesn't take away the effect that it has on you psychologically, physiologically, so forth. So ultimately we end up, and I've done a lot of research on the impact of microaggressions on us. Like ultimately we end up traumatized,
Yeah.
and because of the fact that we're not addressing it at all, we just continue to push it down, and then the trauma of it compounds, and eventually it impacts us in other ways, which I believe is what leads to the amount of issues with mental health, a lot of our um, physical illnesses, ailments, chronic illness, disabilities, and other stuff, because that trauma has to manifest itself some kind of way. Kimya over there playing the spoon while I'm
Yeah,
pontificating.
I apologize. I was just so passionate about this
You
item,
was,
throwing
you
stuff. I feel like
We have to
feel like
sorry.
you're moving color.
We have about no minutes left.
no minute, and we have not
But
gotten to any
we
of
Okay.
do need
the
to
questions.
either ask one question and just like very short answer,
Yeah.
or Dr. Kimya needs to wrap
What you gonna
things
Oh,
up
do?
I can
with a
go.
bow. Put a bow on it.
I can
Put a
rap.
bow on it.
Okay,
If
put a
you like
bow
the
on
thing,
it,
you
boo.
should have put a bow
I
on
can
it.
rap.
If you like the thing, you should have put a
Um,
bow. Oh,
I can rap like a freestyle flow.
Whatever.
I'm joking. All right. So I will say we really answered every item because this intentionally all connects because we're sociologists, Dr. Jason. I know we do. Okay, but I will just say so. The last part, I want Black folks to understand the actor Lincoln Theodore Monroe Andrew Perry, who was known as Stepin Fetchit,
Mhm.
and why he became a millionaire back in the day. He became a millionaire by acting roles that entertain white people, and you can find all of his movies on YouTube. And he did the whole character of the yes sir, I don't know sir, I don't know sir, talking very slow, hunching his back. But in real life, he was a domestic violencer and a millionaire who did not talk like that, did not act like that, anything.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, many Black folks, and this is around the world, have taken on that role of step and fetch it
Mhm.
to make money. Okay. And so I'm not going to ask a whole lot of questions, but I just will say that my closing part is to encourage our people to stop playing that role and then complaining about code switching, imposter syndrome. Instead, I want our people to read Dr. Anna Julia Cooper, Dr. W.B. Du Bois, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and learn about the meanings of dueling identities and what does it mean to have to wear different hats, but to not have to completely throw yourself away. I mean, we're
Mhm.
all going to have roles where we are trying to be everywhere, and you will be a token. You will be a token somewhere. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
something that we as Black folks have to understand. You're going to be a token for a school. You're going to be a token for an organization, a company. You're going to be the presenter of something new. You're going to be someone who's a change maker. But then you got to ask yourself, do I have a deal breaker eventually? And if you don't have any deal breakers, it's now your fault. You can't blame everybody.
Mhm.
I'll stop there.
Yeah.
I have a quick answer. I think some general advice that I give to folks is like, first thing you need to do when you have a new job or a new opportunity or a transition is to visualize and create the life that you want. Right.
Mhm.
And then anything that is not in alignment, like I don't use the term work-life balance, I use alignment. Anything that is not in alignment with the life that you want for yourself, then that's where, to use Kimya's term, that would be the deal breaker, right? I think, and I often say that to people because often, we get our education, our accolades, our credentials through white supremacist organizations, and we are oppressed through those processes. When we're
Mhm.
able to emerge out of them, there's an opportunity, and some people just actually need permission to say, I can leave that in the past and I can become the person I was truly meant to be,
Mhm.
moving into the future. And so that's the way I would tell people, especially I've always given this to Black people, to think about how they want to create the life that they want, and then to step away from anything that doesn't fulfill that.
I love that, Kendra. I think, and I would add to it, like being one of the things that you said several times during this series is know that these places were not built for you, and not to lose sight of that. Like, like Kimia just said, sometimes you will be the token, you will be the first, you will be the change maker. That's the role that you're going to have to play. And it's going to be hostile, it's going to be difficult, and you have to be prepared for that. But know the why, like know why you got into it, what it is that you want to get out of it, and what the line is that you're not going to cross in terms of what you give, but and also in terms of like what you take and get. Like, okay, I'm not going no further than that. I think that really makes makes a good point. And that alignment piece, for me, alignment is one of my words this year, and down to what it is. Like, there are things that I may see on social media and think about sharing, but then I think to myself, like, is this alignment, is this aligned with like who I am and what I want to be, and what I want to be associated with me. Because I look at it, as much as people say this isn't an endorsement, low key, high key, it is. And so I want to be much more intentional and careful and thoughtful about the ways, in which I use that. So for me, that I being making sure that I understand my why, making sure that I can articulate that, making sure that I'm consistently affirming that, and not losing sight that it's highly, highly possible that the place that I'm in was not built for me. And that's okay, as long as I don't lose sight of why I'm here and what I'm meant to accomplish, and when it's time for me to dip. So that's my advice.
Whew. So, I think that's a perfect place to end. I'm going to say it again, and not just because I'm the host of the show, but this has been a pleasure for me. I have learned so much. Anyone who is not familiar with these ladies, these wonderfully intelligent, brilliant, silly ladies.
We didn't have no rapid fire, so we
I
just
mean,
gotta
let me do a rapid fire real quick.
we just have to sing some songs, and I'm
I
trying to
don't
get
have
out.
no
I'm trying to
rapid
get
fire
in out of my
questions.
box. Hurry up!
I
Hurry
don't have no rapid fire questions today.
up! Okay.
I don't know
Well,
any.
it's
I'm
okay.
just dressed and pressed, ready to party. Money in your
Mm, the
pocket,
coffee
dirty.
down the moon, you're ready
Get
to get
inside,
your
you get
child,
the
Pay the
play the
whole
place,
ten
the
dollars.
house, the place,
way
to
to
the
pay
place, the
the
place, place, to the
get
power, lead the
close to
gun,
the
to the
crack and
cash,
the
and the
knives
top of the
alone.
line,
Kimya
into life,
Dennis on the microphone.
and
Some
I'm
busting and
rushing.
stacking and
straight from the
tacking.
past,
You
and
I
can't
Chris
the
understand
time,
my
and
brothers
the
don't be
don't be
acting. There's
and
only one
only
place
know
to
this way,
go.
that's
Y'all,
way,
y'all
and
see
I'm
how
starting to
Y'all
What
spiraling
you
again.
got a gun for?
Y'all
And
spiraling.
that's
You
this
just
is
step
just
to
the
the point,
pause.
your
Yo,
daddy-o.
daddy, score some more.
Straight from the mouth, the ride of daddy-o, do a crying
Let me
in.
tell you
Just
something.
They
gotta
gotta
go.
go.
You can try to get day to day. That's
And
all your
tomorrow
beat
you're
out
dropping bars.
Oh my God.
Listen, you want to watch me lose my ish? First of all, my dog is losing his ish. You want to watch me lose my ish? You play self-destruction.
Okay.
And Scenario by Tribe Called Quest. I will rap every lyric.
All right.
You said scenario earlier. I was gonna do as I combine, meet it up from the mind, heat up, bring it back from your mind, powerful impact, boom like a cannon.
Okay, that's enough.
Oh, cap you, that is necessary.
Like, listen, that's how it's going down.
And we're only entertaining our own people.
First of all, the best crew rap song. That's our rapid fire question, and this is going to be the end of the best crew, like collaborative, because we are talking about collectives and communities. So our final question: the best crew group. They don't have to be a group; could be just a group of people. Rap song. Self-destruct. We heard self-destruction. We heard scenario.
The symphony.
The symphony is it. The end.
Closely. See all the tensions undivided. Many in the past
have tried to do what I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So mine is Shoot by Salt and Pepper.
Okay.
That's always a classic.
Okay.
It is classic.
And self-destruction is yours.
I agree. And the freedom of women in their bodies and the freedom of women in their sexuality that comes out of that song. And some of the songs and a lot of the songs that Salt and Pepper did in that era. Shout out to the Black Magic album. It's a classic. Fact.
All right.
You make me wanna shoot. Baby.
I got another show to do. Y'all.
Yeah. I need to go hang out with my husband.
Yes, go hang out with your husband. Thank you, everyone, for joining Trap Chat Live. Thank you to Dr. Kendra Jason, Dr. Kimya Dennis, Sarah K. Morgan, my sorors, my friends. And you guys come back next month. I'm doing the best I can. Managing 2 shows, but y'all come back next month because I'm trying. So next week is June. Enjoy the rest of your week, and if you have the time and you want to see me talk again, come back at 5 o'clock because I'm going to be live again. Head over to LinkedIn for wins, woes, and wine. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.